Well, it is January, so that means the leftist cadre of politicians, CEOs, and billionaires have gathered in Davos, Switzerland for the 54th Annual World Economic Forum. The ongoing wars in Gaza and Ukraine loom over this year's proceedings, but the world leaders who flew by private jet, followed by a private helicopter ride to the sleepy ski town in the Alps, have much to say about climate change as well as their new favorite panic item, misinformation. Now, what else was among the chatter of the self-described elite? Well, joining me now to discuss this is author, columnist, and executive director of the Fixed Point Foundation, Larry Taunton, who kind of crashed the forum this week. Larry, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, Tony.
So first, let me just ask you a question. Why Davos, Switzerland? Why not Detroit, Michigan, or Los Angeles, California?
You know, that is a question everybody asks who doesn't fly a private jet, because I have to tell you, it is not an easy place to get to. You know, I would have preferred that they had held it in Atlanta, but they didn't ask me.
So give us a glimpse of what you saw this year at the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting, Tony. About 70% of the WEF, and they say the WEF, the World Economic Forum presentations, sessions are online. But I think it's that other 30% that are very important. And also, I really feel it's important to get a feel for the ethos of something like this. And with that in mind, I go and I just kind of move among the WEFers and engage them in conversation. And it's endlessly fascinating. But one of the things that really comes through to me, Tony, is that there wasn't any mention of these farm uprisings, these farmers that are they're protesting all over Europe and have done so in Canada as well. There's no mention of any of that. There's a great focus on Ukraine. There's a great focus on Putin. And though it is unspoken, there is a great focus and, dare I say, anxiety about Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I saw, I guess it was not quite 2 weeks ago, the Economic Forum released their survey of concerns, top 10 concerns. And the top one was misinformation, disinformation. Second, extreme weather. Third, societal polarization. Fourth, cyber insecurity. And on down with economic downturn being number 9. And I was just comparing the exit polling from the voters in Iowa. It was almost the exact opposite. Their biggest concern, in fact, migration was number 8 for the World Economic Forum. That was the number 1 issue when it came to the voters in Iowa, which I think is a snapshot of what people are feeling, thinking in America, followed by the economy. Doesn't seem to be affecting those folks in Davos.
No, and it's because, as you might expect, Tony, there's a tremendous disconnect with these people, with the way they live, with, some of them have been in government for decades. I mean, take somebody like John Kerry. I mean, he has no idea what life is like for ordinary people around the world. Now, one of the news items that really captured the WEF this week was I think it was yesterday, that the new President of Argentina, Javier Milei, he came and gave them a piece of his mind. And he represents populists, not just in Argentina. He's become something of a rock star, really, with common people all over the world. But he was invited to speak, and he didn't waste the opportunity to tell them what he really thinks.
Yeah, I saw you've been commenting on him on social media, but I saw he actually flew commercial to get there.
Yes.
and he is kind of like another version of Donald Trump. I mean, he's just he's bringing a perspective that I think is reflective of a lot of people. I mean, he was going after socialism. I mean, he was hitting this stuff pretty hard.
Yeah, he really was. It's interesting. He's even borrowed Donald Trump's phrase. He says, "Make Argentina great again." And I as a historian, I can't recall when that golden age in Argentinian history was, but 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 his point is nonetheless made, and that is to say, at least make Argentina a place that is free from globalists, free from their anti-human agenda. And that's something I would really want your listeners, your viewers to understand, Tony, is that the WEF is fundamentally anti-human. And when they start talking about misinformation and disinformation, that's just code. That's just Orwellian speak for ending free speech. And their primary target is to go after X or Twitter.
Right. And I saw, speaking of control, silencing, World Health Organization, Secretary General Tedros was there. And of course, they want to clamp down on anyone who would challenge their global power grab when it comes to pandemics and health crises and emergencies and such. You mentioned about being on the ground there, being able to have the conversations and hear what people are saying that you don't get when you're watching online. What were some of the buzzwords that you heard as you were engaging in conversations there?
Well, interestingly, Tony, the feeling you get when you engage with them is that they're absolutely clueless. That's my buzzword for them. It isn't one they use for themselves, but it is one that I will use and apply to them. Clueless. They don't seem to even really be aware that there are people who don't agree with what they're doing. And it was interesting because when you hear them talk about say a place like Twitter, which they refer to as toxic, that is one of their buzzwords. What they really mean by that is any place is toxic that there are people there who dissent with them. So here I am in their midst, Tony, and you kind of have to picture this. They assume I'm a WEFer just like they are. And then when I begin to push back on, the globalist agenda just a little bit, you can see they don't really even know how to respond to me because they're in safe spaces all the time.
They never challenge.
It's kind of the accusation against Christians forever, that you live in the family life center and you don't actually gauge any unbelievers. Well, that's what these people are, except they're members of a godless, secular cult.
Right. Well, speaking of it, we've got about a minute left. Does faith play into what takes place there at the forum? Is that even acknowledged?
Not at all. Not at all. Well, but I will say this: they're very clever about inviting people with whom they might disagree, in an effort to give the impression that they are listening to dissenting voices. But I assure you, they are not.
Yeah.
They're only listening to each other.
Well, Larry Taunton, I want to thank you for taking time to join us as you're on your way back to the States. Always interested in your perspective, what you're picking up when you're on the ground over there.
Listen, it's great to be with you, Tony. You take care.
All right.